The psychologist Carl Jung once wrote, "The religious function is an essential component of the psyche and is found always and everywhere, however undifferentiated it may be. Therefore, when discussing the nature of religion, the first thing to note is that it is not simply an artefact of human inventiveness, a creation of the mind. Instead, it is a naturally occurring function of the psyche. That is, it is something inherent to the soul." Jung's research revealed that religious feelings and ideas are one of the primary forms through which the psyche expresses itself, and has always expressed itself. Evidence of religious activity stretches far back into our prehistoric past, as far as our Neanderthal ancestors, and likely even further. This evidence includes ancient burial sites where bodies have been found buried in a ritual manner, together with tools, personal possessions, and even animals, suggesting belief in a soul separate from and which survived the body. This belief in the separateness of body and soul is not just a relic of the past. Recent studies in the cognitive sciences have shown that children have an inborn tendency to form such a belief. As the religious scholar Reza Aslan declares, that means that we enter the world with an innate sense, untaught, unforced, unprompted, that we are more than just our physical bodies. All of this lends support to Jung's fundamental insight. Human beings are by nature religious beings. Expressions of religion and the ideas associated with it are many. And while we must be cautious about adopting an understanding of religion which is too narrow or too limited, nevertheless, we need some point of orientation from which to survey this topic. In trying to capture the essence of that complex of acts, experiences, and ideas which go by the collective name of religion, we might start by saying that religion is the human response to the mystery of existence. However, we should immediately be aware of the multi-dimensionality of that response. We all receive the mystery in different ways. A helpful image for reflecting on this aspect of religion is the traditional understanding of the three components of human nature: body, mind, and spirit. Each of these dimensions of our being can be used as a lens through which to see and understand the different forms that our response to the mystery can take. The lens of the body shows us the more concrete manifestations of religious response, what is sometimes called organized or institutional religion. At this level, we see the particular traditions, such as Christianity, Judaism, or Hinduism, with their particular fabric of symbols, stories, and practices. This level of religion is often expressed through participation in and commitment to a specific spiritual community. The lens of the mind reveals our attempt to think about and to reflect on religious experience. This is expressed, for example, in the work of theology, from which comes the doctrines and beliefs of the different traditions. But its highest form of expression, perhaps, can be found in the work of the imagination, when art, poetry, music, and architecture are put in service of conveying that which is too deep for words. With the invocation of art, we have already begun to look through the lens of the spirit. This level of religion involves the awakening of awe and wonder, those things to which we commonly give the name spirituality. Here we encounter what is known as the numinous, that overflowing and at times overpowering presence of mystery and meaning that unexpectedly breaks through the neat convention of our lives. In such an encounter, all impetus seems to come from beyond the personal self, relativizing our sense of the centrality of that self, while at the same time enriching and enlivening it. These three different responses do not operate in isolation from each other, but overlap and interconnect. In fact, When one dimension of religion is emphasized at the expense of the other two, its expression can become distorted, turning shallow, pedantic, and even at times oppressive. In its wholeness, religion expresses all three levels without becoming reduced to any one of them alone. It could be said that religion begins in the spirit, with the opening to the numinous, continues in the mind through reflection on that experience, and then is grounded in the body through a disciplined engagement with the forms in which that experience is received. As we've seen, the response to the mystery of existence can take several forms. Similarly, the mystery itself is disclosed to us in many different forms. The various dimensions of religious response, therefore, fulfill several functions, depending on the nature of the disclosure. These functions include such things as the endurance of suffering, the establishment of values that support daily living, and the infusing of life with aliveness and meaning. No human life is immune to the experience of suffering. At one point or another, we will all find ourselves in need of some framework through which to meet and make sense of the trials and crises we will all inevitably encounter. Without this, life can often feel cruel and chaotic. As Jung wrote, all religions are therapies for the sorrows and disorders of the soul. A crucial function of religion is to provide such a framework of understanding. Human beings have wrestled with the question of suffering for millennia, and the wisdom gained by that struggle has been preserved in the religious traditions of the world. Once in contact with this wisdom, our personal experiences no longer feel like arbitrary and isolated events. We begin to recognize them as part of the human condition and discover that our individual story is a reflection of the great human story. In this way, religion brings the witness of the past to the situation of the present, relieving us of the feeling that we are alone in our suffering. A second function of religion is to help us anchor our lives in lasting values, in what we anticipate will shore up our sense of self and give us a foundation that supports a feeling of being at home in our lives. Too often, we attempt to lay that foundation on what is transient, passing fads or impulsive desires. As the famous parable teaches, this amounts to trying to build a house on sand. It cannot sustain us through the storms of life. A religious outlook involves investment in a centre of value, lying beyond the confines of the personal self, grounding us in what is enduring and transpersonal. This is the centre to which religion has always given the name God, a word that is probably best understood as a symbol for the ineffable, the transcendent, and the infinite. Being rooted in such an ultimate value brings orientation and direction to our personal lives. Only if we know that the thing which truly matters is the infinite, wrote Jung, can we avoid fixing our interest upon futilities and upon all kinds of goals which are not of real importance. Finally, we come to a function that eludes precise description. It involves a state of consciousness that can only be indicated through the use of a poetic or metaphorical language. Some traditions call this awakening, others call it salvation, still others, being in Tao. Such descriptions, however, are not meant to define a belief, but rather to bear witness to an experience. The experience they describe is that of a life shot through with significance from the most mundane detail all the way to the grandest cosmological wonder. It is, as one writer puts it, a quiet confidence and joy which enables one to feel at home in the universe. At its best, then, religion aims to facilitate for the individual an experience of the fullness of life and an understanding of the true measures of one's being. It is a means of entering into a relationship with the cosmos and with our very lives. And just as any relationship cannot be conducted along strictly intellectual lines, so religion requires us to take the risk of making a full emotional investment before it will yield up its gifts. And these, affirms Jung, have the power to transform for us the face of the world. As he states, no matter what the world thinks about religious experience, the one who has it possesses the great treasure of a thing that has provided him with a source of life, meaning and beauty, and that has given a new splendor to the world and to humankind.